Disclaimer, usikatch feelings. Yeah, there's an argument out there that it feels like there is quote unquote special treatment for women. Yeah.
If you're meeting someone for the first time, please, ladies, jipende mami. Meet in public and let someone else know. We only want to consider the women on K Street as prostitutes. Mimi naweza sema wao wako at least wao walikubali.
They're honest about it.
Yeah, they're honest about it.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, my beautiful, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of Ramblings of a King, where we get to talk about anything and everything, nothing, and I mean nothing is off the table. You are now watching God's greatest gift to mankind, the one, the only King. And like I said, or did I say, sikumbuki, but nevertheless, I am not alone, yeah? Unajua kuishi maisha peke yako can be extremely lonely. And thank goodness nilipata mtu ambaye ameleta rangi on set. Yeah. So, but before we get into all of that, I want you to do 4 things for me. Yeah, like the video, comment on the video, subscribe. Yeah, and please, the most important part, share. Yeah, sharing is caring, but usishare mtu wa mtu. With all of that said, let us get straight into today's episode. Yeah. Now, I would like to introduce to you this marvelous woman, light skin on set, light skin qua building, and instead of taking all the glory for myself, because I know I have dope people in my life, but before you do all of that, I would just like her to introduce herself. Ndo msiseme, oh, tunataka kusikia mwanamke. So, let her introduce herself. So, guests, jikaribishe.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. As he likes to say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Karibuni sana to today's episode, Ramblings of a King. I like to say a queen, but misread. So anyway, my name is Helen Momanyi. I am many things, depending on who's asking. But today, I am a counseling psychologist and entrepreneur, and I'm glad to be here on set. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, and it is not because of a lack of trying, my guys. Yeah. And I thought it important we at least try to make the beginning of this episode light, kwa sababu for some it will be heavy, for some it will not be, depending on who you are and how you look at things. But today's episode we're going to talk about something that has been plaguing Kenya for a minute, or an issue, a hot topic today, and we're going to talk about femicide, Now, as I was thinking on this, first of all, I like talking about things that are quote unquote controversial, and as she knows me, I will try to find the controversial in this. So,
always.
disclaimer, usikatch feelings, usikatch feelings. And ukikatch, please back pocket. We shall unpack it after the episode is over. Because I feel like some of these questions that I might ask need to be asked. So please keep an open mind and be open. And if at all you have any comment, any addition, anything you'd want to contribute to this, go down there to the comment section, comment it, and I will try to go through as many comments as I can, and hopefully there will be many comments. So we'll jump straight into it, So, and tafadhali, this is not an English podcast. Sina subtitles. Okay. Nilikuwa napitia this thing, and to be honest, the main reason niliamua to have it on this episode is because there were very different viewpoints when it came to this issue of femicide.
True.
Now, the thing that brought it to people's attention ilikuwa hiyo kesi ya John Matara, where he killed the socialite and Sister Kanyari, which is a thing I would also like to go into later on, Starlet Wahu. So went into a B&B, went in alive. One person came out alive, and she was found dead and possibly stabbed, and she bled to death. And one thing that made this whole thing controversial, it wasn't even that she died, it was the opposing view that came from her death, that basically people were saying she brought it on herself. Yeah. So what is your, just before we go into the nitty-gritties, what is your thought process behind this entire thing?
First, let me say a moment of silence, just a moment of silence for the people who've lost their lives. Just a moment. But now let us recap on what you've said. There's a lot of twists and turns in this conversation. There's a lot of misunderstanding, misquoting, misjudgments. You know, everyone has a say, and with all due respect, your views are correct. Yeah, again, depending on where you stand. But for me, what baffles me is how far have we gotten with ourselves that everything demands a pay? Because basically, if you look at it, or rather, if we read from what has been shared with social media and everything else, this one wanted this, the other one wanted that, and because alikata, there's there's a price, and unfortunately, the price in this case is death. It still baffles me. I can't say I have a particular quote or stand on it. It still baffles because I struggle to understand where is all this coming from. But I'm hoping that as we continue, though I feel like I really haven't answered your question, but as we continue, maybe we'll get to make sense, because there is no one complete statement or comment that is going to fall for each and every victim that has brought about the entire story today.
So, and even as you're going to it too, how would you, or when someone talks about femicide, what comes to mind for you?
Killings of women, unfortunately, but that is actually a very interesting question. But mostly what easily comes to mind, maybe because of the numbers, is the amount of death against women because of one or two issues in life.
Okay, fair enough. Now, Kona, a particular take that was that in ambatana na and even not only when it comes to the femicide issue, but even cases that have to do with GBV. Now, there's an argument out there that it feels like there is quote unquote special treatment for women, because when there is violence against men, when there is killing of men, it just falls under homicide, just falls under violence. But when violence is meted out to a woman, it now becomes gender-based violence. So there's a viewpoint out there that violence is just violence. Homicide is just homicide. Murder is just murder. But still, it has been labeled as femicide. Still, it has been labeled as gender-based violence. So, according to you, what makes you think that there was a reason, or what makes you think that people sat down and decided, okay, maybe it is time for us to specialize it? Maybe it is time for us to give it a name on its own. Why do you think that came about?
Well, from where I sit, this goes way back into the ancient of times. The woman is, if I may quote the Bible, kidogo tu for, she's considered the weaker sex.
Okay.
And truth is, leo hata nikuwe na hasira kiasi gani, and you fall on me, I will not have the strength to fight you. So the fact that we are the weaker sex, then maybe that is why an extra voice is added to it. Again, I am not saying that men do not face the same. I've been in places or in conversations where you hear what the man has gone through in the hands of a wife or a female partner, and you're thinking, okay, hizi ni gani tena? But because the numbers are less, again, I am not devaluing the death or the violence towards men. I'm not
Mhm.
devaluing that. But if you look at the numbers, the women is slightly higher than the men.
Mhm.
And because of now where we come from, our history, origins, etc.,
Mhm.
the man has the upper hand. Truth is, the man has the upper hand.
Mhm.
And many times it is considered that women are more emotional than men.
Mhm.
So if anyone is to have concrete or mental stability,
Mhm.
is the man.
Mhm.
Because women will think with our emotions, with our hearts, and then our brains will come in later.
Mhm.
So maybe because of that, that is why there is a voice, a stronger voice towards the women.
Mhm.
But again, I stand to be corrected.
Okay. Fair enough. Now, obviously, this case for me was interesting. Yeah, kwa sababu when I looked into it, this guy, according to and I use this term very loosely, according to witness account, and the witness being the perpetrators, the alleged perpetrators, not even alleged at this point, but the perpetrators caretaker kitambo, alikuwa anaishi huko side za KU, had girls coming to his apartment each and every single day. He had women going in and out. Yeah, and apparently the caretaker was not comfortable with this. Yeah, this man, according to what I hear now that that whole case came out, that he assaulted women when they were at his place and all of this. But me, the biggest question is, it is evident that this guy had a woman problem. And by woman, I mean this guy alikuwa anatembea kama njugu, yeah? So it is evident that this guy had a woman problem. It is evident that this guy enjoyed engaging in sex, because some of the things police officers found at his place zilikuwa HIV testing kits and condoms, yeah? But I think the biggest question I have is, why this time? Yeah, why this time? Women have been to his place multiple times. But why? What changed that this time he thought, okay, now let me kill her? Yeah. Or because you are a psychologist, yeah. Is there any insight or any sort of insight you could give us to why this would change so drastically? Ama, is it something that, is it the situation? Ama, is it something that was building up to that?
Okay. Now, when you're asking that question, I wanted to ask if I can answer that from a psychological perspective. And some of these things come from way back, yeah? How we are nurtured. Truth is, how you love a woman today has a lot to do with what you've experienced as a child, seeing your parents, seeing your environment, and then the awareness that you have after all that. And in all these cases, not putting that alone into perspective, maybe if we look deeply into the lives of all the victims now, there has been a need for something that has not been met. And that aside, every one of us, you and I, even our producer seated here today, we always have a threshold for something. You can piss me off and I'll keep quiet. You can piss me off again, I'll keep quiet. But itafika mahali, I'm sure we've had cases of where maybe a wife stabs the husband. Alafu nasikiza watu kwa plot wanasema, no, mama alikuwa mpole, hata kwani kuliendaje? There was always something. There's always something that triggers us. And then it gets to a point where we really can't hold it anymore. It's like having urine, yeah, in your bladder. You can hold it for a few minutes. Then inaongezeka tena. You'll keep feeling it, but you let it slide. Alafu inafika mahali, you can't even stand. And if I continue in that scenario, inafika mahali, you go to the loo, you're trying to open the door, inakata, what happens? You pee on yourself. So the same concept equally applies to now these perpetrators and victims and everyone in question. Yes.
So you think it was something that was building up?
I tend to believe it is something that was building up. Unfortunately, how it erupted, now this is where things are different. The people who erupt in complete silence, the people who erupt in, doing something. For example, killing. And it's unfortunate again because I don't know if it's dopamine. There's a high that you want to feel. If you keep pissing me off, yeah, there's a high I will want to feel. That is why kuna mtu atarusha glass, ikipasuka they kind of cool down. And there are others who will turn into slapping. Then they, for some reason, they just cool down. For others, it is now that. There are others again who get the joy, unfortunately, for lack of a better word, in some of these things. Again, it is sick. I am not saying it is good or it's the way to go. No. It's just an after effect of withheld or compressed emotions and unmet realities, or those things that we keep quiet about and we really don't get to talk about.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I would like to turn to the victims, and this is the part that people might not like. Yeah. Now, when this guy was arrested, when this case blew up, then is when people started coming forward. The alleged victims that he assaulted in the past, and I want to say alleged because nothing has been proven. The caretaker started coming forward and said that this guy was doing this. The alleged victims came forward and said that this guy also assaulted me in one way or the other. But then again, we have seen that people have been accused falsely of particular things. Now, and please, to anyone who is watching out there, let us take this isolated from the murder case. Yeah. But people have started coming forward saying that John alinifanyia hivi na hivi na hivi, but it wasn't brought up before. Yeah. So who's to say that this is not just a one-off? Because it is also not uncommon for people to come up and say something when something has blown up for the purposes of getting attention. Yeah. So who's to say that this is not a one-off? Yeah. And also along with that, because I do not think I have ever been in the position of a victim. I do not know what goes through their mind when something traumatic happens or when they've been sexually assaulted. Most of all sexual assault victims, I do not know what goes through their mind. But why would someone hold off for so long from giving information that would have potentially gotten someone who was dangerous off the streets? Why wait till this very moment? Yeah, because there's always a chance that I might come up and say, kwa nini? Is it true? Maybe unatudanganya. Maybe you want attention. So why would someone hold off on it so much? And who's to say this is not just a one-off?
It's a very sensitive matter. And I'm trying to wear the shoe of the victims in this case. I think because of the systems that we have, unfortunately, it's not easy to just say person XY did ABCD and you're taken for your word. We have very many cases that people have gone to complain about to our forces, and many a times unapata you're either sized or you're actually victimized because of being a victim. Does that make sense? Yeah, it gets difficult to express exactly what happened, or even if it's not difficult to express, how that statement is taken. It's unfortunate that we're still in a space where my experience alone may not actually get you behind bars unless kuna similar stories and actual injuries to show that ABCD has happened. I remember last week on Wednesday, There was a story, I think, on Radio Jumbo or Citizen Radio. Forgive me, I really can't remember where. And there was a lady, I think she's called Dr. Diana, who was giving her story on gender-based violence. And if you look at her pictures online, and I share her story with a lot of respect. She has the before how she looks compared to how she looks now. She had injuries. She was cut on her breast, on her arm, trying to protect herself from her husband who committed suicide. And it's unfortunate that even with all that, she was still viewed as the one who caused the husband to commit suicide. But if you listen to her story, unfortunately, we can't get his side of the story because he's no longer alive. You can clearly see, or you can clearly tell that history yote ilitoka somewhere. By the time you're coming to hold a knife at me, you attack me with it, and then I am considered as a bad person, yet I am helpless. It's difficult to draw that line. I still do not know what can be done about it, but to answer your question, it's difficult to walk up to the police and say, I was done, ABCD happened to me. And there's also the point of, we've had the statement, ulijilete. Yeah. It's unfortunate that the ulijilete community tends to have a stronger voice than the person who's hurt, without even paying attention or wanting to know what led to ABC.
Okay,
Make
now
sense?
it does
A
make
bit.
sense, but there are points I want to disagree with you.
Please.
When you say that we are living in a society where the victim is not believed. Now, let me take you back. I think this story was on the news 3 years ago, around 3 years ago. Guy was taken to jail because he raped his daughter. Yeah. Later, years passed, this guy is released because the daughter came forward and said that all that I said was a lie. Why? Because my mom told me to tell this to the police. Yeah. Now, I know we're living, and I say I know because I have seen examples of this. I know we're living in a society where, yes, the point you made when you were beginning, women are viewed as the weaker sex. And because of that, people are more inclined to believe you guys when you come and say that this and this has happened. Major case, it might not be relevant to Kenya, but it is relevant to this discussion. Johnny Depp, Amber Heard, went forward and said that she had been abused for years by her husband. He was beating her and all of that. And this guy lost his career. Even to date, one of the popular movie franchises he was acting in cannot take him back because of that. But this woman went forward and said that this guy assaulted me, this guy was an abusive husband, I have gone through a lot. And she was believed. And that is this kind of society I'm inclined we are in. Society where your word is given more value or more weight than mine when it comes to being victimized. Yeah? And now when you say that we are living in a society where the victim, and by victim, this is me saying, looking at the victim being a female, is less inclined to be believed. I do not think I agree with that school of thought. I have seen too many cases where men have gone through shit just because this woman has come forward and said something. Yeah. And this doesn't only, it isn't only with matters to do with violence. Yeah. Take an example. How many times have children been told by their mothers that your father did not want to be in your life, he left us, when that was a lie? And not even to the kids, even to the society. She goes and says and tells society that this guy left us because he did not want to take responsibility, when in actual sense, the person behind all of this was her. Yeah. Now, who's to say that when this happens, this is not the case? Oh, that is not the right question. the right question would be, how do you draw the difference between a person who is saying or telling us an actual story from something that actually happened in their lives, the real experience, from someone who is just saying something in order to either get back at the man or to gain the upper hand?
I hear you. And it's interesting that I've had experiences on both sides of the coin where, yes, someone is told to say something for their benefit, but to injure the other person. And on the other side, where it's actually true, but the victim is not believed. It's difficult to tell. And I wouldn't say I'm in a position to tell you now, here is where we drew the line. He is white and here is black. There's a lot of gray. There's a lot of gray. And maybe all I could say from where I sit, again, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Yeah, there's a lot of education that needs to be shared out there. Again, it's not a fair case, but we can't equally disregard everything that has been shared. There's a lot that needs to be put on the table. And what I would say is, before you dismiss someone as, as a victim, or is the opposite of a victim? Perpetrator, yes. Do your homework. That's all I would say. Just regardless of where you are, regardless of the power that you hold, do your homework. Because by the end of the day, we hurt. Yeah. By we, I mean the people involved and the community at large. We get hurt. So do your homework. If a case has come to you, don't usirushe mkono. Sometimes you could be the only hope this person has. And yes, if a case comes and let me use you as an example. Bruno amekelewa, he's the victim, he's a perpetrator. I keep saying, just read in between my lines, yeah? We have institutions that assist with such matters. Okay, I don't know if it's in Kenya or Ukonje, but there's a lot that we need to do. So I can't clearly say that. Here's where we draw the line.
And I think that is where my biggest problem lies, yeah? Now, here's the thing, and this is the reason I made this statement was not to single out women, but I generally have a problem with taking someone at their word. Generally, I have a problem with that. See, Levlen is a kujian kwambie, by the way, ule jamaa slept with my wife. Slept with your husband. And I take you for your word. It does not make sense that the first thing you hear is the first thing you believe, yet you have not dug deeper into if it actually happened. Yeah. Now, and I say this because here's the thing. Now, looking at the victims, they allege that things happened to them because of this guy. But now you're coming up years down the line. How do I
validate?
Exactly. How do I validate whatever it is you're telling me? How should I prove whatever it is you're telling me? Like I said in the very first episode, in the Get to Know Me episode, I'm a criminologist. I want to see the proof of what you're saying. But you come to me years later and tell me that this is what happened to me, and I am just supposed to believe you. Yeah. And I think this is something which we'll cover in later episodes. But right now we are living in the cancel culture age, yeah, where you say one wrong thing or what society or the cancel community views as wrong, umekuwa cancelled. Yeah. You are no longer supposed to have an opinion about anything kwa sababu you have gone against what they believe to be true. Yeah. So that is the kind of world we are living in. And unfortunately, sai Dema kisema, by the way, I was raped. Niseme, sawa, you're saying you were raped. Give me the proof of it. I believe I would be cancelled because naangaliwa like, hey dude, nini mbaya nawe? Mbona humwamini? Yeah? So, sijui. I have an issue with all of that.
I get your frustration
Mhm.
because, again, having known you for quite a number of years, it's either black or white. It's never
Yeah.
gray. But unfortunately, there's nothing like that.
There's always gray, but there needs to be some sort of
Clear color to it.
yeah, like ikiwa gray niambie ni gray, nioni ni gray, useme we're in a gray area yet it's purple. Yeah. So
Who
that
are
is
you
my
associating
frustration. So that's my frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I would like to go into something that you said as you're answering one of the questions. For the life of me, I cannot remember which question. But ulisema kitu. Ulisema kwenye community ya si ulijiletea. Yeah? And that is where the controversy behind this whole femicide in Kenya came in. Ulijiletea. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. And now, for people who might remember, some 2 years back, 3 years back, a popular radio presenter, Shafi Weru, along with his breakfast team, they were basically cancelled. Why? Because they gave their thoughts on a particular issue. Chick, first date, went to the dude's place, was thrown off, I do not know which floor is it, but she is paralyzed, yeah, right now. And what they brought up is, why would you as a woman go to the first date at a guy's place, a guy who you're just meeting for the first time? Now, fast forward to this story, yeah? Starlet or who killed at an Airbnb. Indications show that this is the first time she was meeting this person, yet she was comfortable enough to go with a stranger to an Airbnb, not considering that Ujaman is a serial killer. And I'm not saying that he is, but not considering that this guy might be dangerous. Yeah? Why? Because number one, sex, and number two, and again, hot topic, prostitution. And I put that in very big air quotes. Yeah? But mtu akiangalia hiyo case, aseme umejiletea, would they be wrong?
Why are you fixing me now?